welcome back to our brand new episode, Coffee in a Boardroom at CEPTES. And today we'll talk about MCP, Model Context Protocol. So right now MCP is the talk of the town, and if it seems everyone is jumping on this MCP bandwagon. So in today's episode, we will try to understand what MCP is and why is it so important right now. I'm in conversation with our CEO, Mr. Priya Ranjan Panigrahy, to understand this MCP phenomena a bit more closely. Hello Priya, welcome to the show.
Hello Sally, nice to see you again.
So Priya, firstly help me understand that what exactly MCP is.
If I give an analogy, then in those days, I'm telling you in those days because we are in the AI age, right? So in the web application, SaaS companies days, APIs are used to connect one application to another application directly with middleware, things like that. But in AI age, with AI application, connected to those APIs, it's not that straightforward. It's little complex. It is not very straightforward, not any protocol driven. That is the reason that Anthropic come up with a concept called Model Context Protocol, and which I would say MCP is the new API for the AI application or agentic applications to connect with. So the way that every SaaS company exposes their APIs, right? For a developer, they expose CLIs, command line interface. For application to application, they expose API, application programming interface. And for AI to connecting to those APIs, there is a MCP which comes in the middle. That's where it is fueling your agentic development, agentic outcome, business outcome. It is going to do that one with less work. You can immediately get and start talking to so many applications with the ease of configuration that MCP brought into the picture.
So, can you walk us through that historical context? Like, what problem it actually solved, and what was before MCP, and after MCP, what has changed?
Yeah. Okay. Now let me put a problem statement here, right? Now, when ChatGPT came, right, or OpenAPI, for a developer, because ChatGPT is a client where we can use it, right? But for a developer, they exposed APIs that you can send your prompts, get your conversation going with the help of APIs. So every LLM provides APIs where we send context and as well as our prompt, then it goes back to the LLM, then you get the response, right? Initial days, they also support in the request to payload, what we call send the data into a JSON structure. They also support something called tools. Tools is also an attribute in that payload, little bit technical, and they to support that. Where we need to define the entire external system, either it could be file-based, unstructured data, or it could be a HTTP call out to some system. We need to define it. We need to in natural language, we need to give a description that what is this service is all about. Then LLM can understand in your prompt whether which tool that it has to connect with that, right? Now, talking to a endpoint, to an external system, providing those syntactical details, the request to payload, the authentication details, this becomes cumbersome. One I can do, but if you look at in the Salesforce world, we have more than 2,000 plus endpoint across the products. ServiceNow, it could be similar way. Small applications like kind of QuickBook or Stripe, they do have also 100 plus APIs or endpoints. What we are talking. Is it practically possible to bring all this API and pass through the tools as a payload, and its maintenance is a problem? All that is going to problem. It is never going to be suggested way also. That is the problem. Anthropic created another middle layer. Said that okay, all this complexity of dirty way of writing these tools instead of your JSON payload while making the API call, you just give a two-liner. What is your MCP server name? This MCP server name, once you give it, I can call these MCP servers, which internally going to discover those tools. Based on these tools, based on my prompt I receive, I know the tools which is part of the MCP server, I can do that. So in this way, now imagine that a 2000 endpoints and giving that entire schema to connect to Salesforce of every API. Instead, I can just give a mcp.salesforce.com, right? Which is a far more easier than defining all these details, right? And then you can implement them into another layer, but don't mix it with the LLM layer or the API layer of where you are making it. And the good part is that why Salesforce? You can have today Slack API, Microsoft API, Azure API, your Heroku API, and a lot of other APIs, MCP, your Heroku MCP, Slack MCP, Salesforce MCP, ServiceNow MCP, Azure MCP, all that you can put multiple MCP into that. And this MCP, it can be connected to your local system that you can execute the command line. You can run a Python code, run a batch file, run some exe file, any executable you run in your local machine. If local hosted, you are putting into that one. If it's a remote, you can have a HTTP streamable, that means HTTP way, and which is a server-side event we generate, which called SSE, server-side event, which is going to be always open and listening for your request. That's a different way of doing that one. That is where we're coming and trying to disrupt this market of how AI agent can be all of a sudden going to get multiple power, or like the muscle of an AI agent only comes if that agent can talk to your MCP server. There is a nitty-gritty MCP client, MCP host, which initiates MCP host. There is MCP client which can send to MCP server request, and MCP server will send out those APIs, blah blah blah. That's
basically it is a plug and play kind of.
Exactly, it is a plug and play, and the best way that if you look at the cloud, I use cloud desktop every day. I connected my MCP of Salesforce MCP, Slack MCP, or all other MCP, Google MCP, things like that. Then time I connected, it takes hardly 10 seconds. Now as soon as I connected, give my credentials. Now look what, the entire API and facilities of the application in my fingertips. Now I can ask, now I can type, now you can take any action. The LLMs are so intelligent to connect the right tool and they do all your actions. You send a few examples, create a payment link, generate a code, generate a document, create a file and put it in the Google Drive or a team, send a message via team, send a message to WhatsApp, create an account and CRM record, right? And you understand the code deploy. What you cannot do, get me that, okay, the top 10 opportunities and all those things. And that too you can ask in your local language, not necessarily English language, LLM understandable, and then it connects the tool, make the connection, get the data, and then LLM put in a smart way of representing that final data. Once you got the data, you're going to give it.
So my next question is, if I talk about the business perspective, like why decision makers need to take MCP very seriously, right?
If I talk about, every company is going through this massive transformation, AI transformation. Every enterprises are looking for AI agentic journey to start with. As I told you, AI agents only get power not only to the home system. Imagine Salesforce has a home agentic system called Agentforce. Agentforce can talk to the home system, any CRM activity very easily. You don't need MCP for that. But Salesforce is the only thing that customer is looking for. Look at a customer standpoint. I have a ticketing system, I have a HR system, I have a ERP system, I have a finance system, I have so many sales tool system and all that one. When you look at that, this Agentforce now need to connect to all this system with ease, not spending time in writing integration code and taking $1 million tools for that to get it happen. The only way you can get it and see the return immediately, that if you connect with your Agentforce to this MCP server of the third party. If you start connecting into that one, then only you see your agentic investment value out of that what we are doing. And as you say, which you are talking to a couple of customers right now, I could remember that customer had challenged us, okay, no, we have, can I just do all my ERP, right? All activities from my agentic. That means I get to know my order status. I wanted to know my price of this particular product from my ERP. Sitting in Agentforce, I ask the queries and then automatically I get the details. It used to be difficult because initially, before MCP way, we used to pull the data, then we need to give this data into the prompt itself. Okay, you take my data, but it is not practically possible. You cannot give so much of data to a prompt and ask question. It is doable. But how about when your millions of data are available in a product and a lot of other configurations? It is practically impossible for somebody to provide this data, because not only your token size get increases for the prompt, but also you get only that much contextual. Out of the context, if you ask again, you need to go and get the data and to pass that. And this becomes very cumbersome, time taking. Enterprise may not see the value out of it. The real value they really see when the AI agents are connected to MCP. That is where that, kind of that enterprise are going. That is what a massive game changer of anybody is thinking about AI change. And as we are seeing with our customers right now, I'm pretty sure that our viewers and whoever, doing that, they would be knowing that one, how it is changing the game of the entire AI part of it.
So right now, a little bit controversial questions that since MCP is an open standard, so people are thinking that what about the data security part? So I want to know about that how it is, how we can ensure the data security part.
Yeah, see, MCP is a concept. It is open. The way we implement, depend on that, the security comes in the picture. You are only giving a server details, and those MCP HTTP servers can be authenticated and can be make it ready. And the guy who is sending a prompt, you would be knowing that guy's session ID or user ID in your Active Directory and who the user is accessing the data or sending the prompt. If that information can be passed back to MCP server as a parameter, as a query parameter or as an environment, whatever the parameter they have concept into that one. Now when MCP actually makes those APIs call and try to logically get your data and everything, it will take your user context till the last mile. Then as if that guy having access to that system and only getting that much of data what is supposed to see it. That's a number one, default one. Imagine a sales guy may not have access to the ERP data. And today, we also make a API call with a service account or a system account and single integration user account, and we pull the data based on that what is supposed to see. And that is again getting contextual with account. Show me all invoices of that account. What does that mean? You are passing the account and pulling only that much data. And there is no way they can ask for more thing and you can do that. Yes, as you know, there is a concept called setting up the boundary, setting up the guardrails. What does that mean? Well, you are creating an agent, you need to tell that how much he can do, how much he cannot do. That is a one level of security. When it comes to MCP, you protect your MCP server in a way that you only authenticate to the people that you know and check with your Active Directory that can be implemented on top of that. When it goes to the API layer, you decide whether you want to do an integration account or a user-based account, what you are going to do it. And then you can have a filtration of your user context or a system context to pull your data. Once you return your data, your guardrails are going to talk about that something you can put that also into picture that how much you wanted to show or a summary you wanted to show or not. Being said that, MCP is a standard introduced with that one, and if you look at more than Anthropic, what they thought of, there are many of the partners, many of the companies, many of the developers has created lot of way how the multi-tenant MCP can be created, how the how MCP can be more secured into this one. Lot of other things are coming to the picture. I don't think security I'm not saying security is not a challenge. Security even challenge. Even the recent cyber attacks we are hearing also, it's not like the security were not there. The grid systems also can be hacked into that way if you talk about the security, which is getting evolved. The way software also getting evolved, anti-software is also getting evolved to do that. But at the same point of time, as a technology, it's a fantastic. And as a security guidelines, if you follow the basic security guidelines from enterprise standard, then there is no problem. And that to be, you can build your own wrapper of MCP server, deploy it inside as a VPN, and you can give only access to the people who connected to the VPN. As long as you are not exposing to a public, that is not a problem. So that means, and when your MCP is making request some CRM data, let's say from Salesforce, you go through with a proper user account with a proper IP address. That means it's supposed to initiate from the range of IP address where your MCP is operating from. So even somebody wanted to make a outside MCP and trying to do that, they will never get it. So there are various ways you can figure out the security part of it. And yes, it's a tough, but it has to be implemented on top of that. The regular MCP, what we see as open source for a developer and the GitHub project and all that.
So now I would like to know about the Salesforce perspective. What Salesforce is offering, like how Salesforce is helping companies to leverage in MCP.
When MCP started in December, all companies, including Salesforce, they have jumped into that because they understand the power of this. Being an open source, it is going to be catch the fire very soon. Salesforce also invented, as you know, MCP is a better version or AI version of APIs. As you know, Salesforce is MuleSoft. The existing integration pipelines, the APIs, are already been built through MuleSoft. The first and foremost, what Salesforce has done, that they have created MCP client, MCP server, connecting to different MCP, converting or exposing the existing APIs to a MCP compatible. This MuleSoft is providing, and this MuleSoft MCP server can be connected to Agentforce as on today. That means I had 100 APIs which I have orchestrated the system API or experience API in MuleSoft. That I wanted to use in my AI today, in my agent today. You get your MuleSoft MCP and then you connect with your Agentforce and you start asking questions or start asking any actions, take any actions. It from your agent, it goes to the MuleSoft MCP. MuleSoft is executing one of your scenarios or integration pipelines what we have created, that they have given. Second part, Salesforce has something called a Heroku. Heroku is an infrastructure as a services they have given. All Heroku services like deploy, see the log, see these things, add something, do something, all those command lines what they are providing or APIs they are providing, they created a Heroku MCP. I don't think it's an Agentforce point of view, as a customer point of view, somebody will connect with that MCP. Rather, as a developer point of view in a VS Code, I can use my Heroku MCP to deploy my application, to retrieve some information. That I can pretty much do that. That is another MCP. Then Agentforce claims that I can connect it to a third-party MCP, but I doubt they are still not generally available yet. But I'm pretty sure before Dreamforce or in Dreamforce, it is going to be available to the market. But as we have seen, we have built our custom agentic solution where we connected this third-party MCP, and there are many partners, developers that are trying to do that one. And if we can do it, of course, Salesforce can do it. Of course, they will be going through some checkpoints and everywhere. They have to make sure that, because Heroku and MuleSoft is a data or as a system, they control. So they know the good and bad security aspect and they're exposed immediately. But exposing outside, it's not about technical feasibility. It is all about it should not break anything. The data should not steal, and security is a highest point they're supposed to get those. Then only they are going to get into a beta, to a limited pilot user, then into a general availability. They are going to do that one. So, and they do support A2A protocol, that called MCP protocol. Similarly, Google has introduced something called agent-to-agent protocol, right? A2A protocol, MCP protocol, they do support. And of course, Agentforce is going to be one of the number one CRM AI agent, and without MCP, it is going to be tough to survive in the market. So MCP is supposed to be supported. What is supported by MuleSoft, not necessarily every customer use today. It has to be supported by the third-party MCP, which is supposed to be an easy way to connect into that one.
So we are almost at the end of our discussion, and before we wrap up, we just want to switch gears because now we want to ask you some questions as a rapid fire questions. Okay, so you can answer me in one line. So what is that? So can you tell me in one sentence or a few words that what problem exactly MCP solves in one sentence?
AI agent can easily connect to thousands of external applications easily without much hassle.
Okay. And another, does MCP store your data?
MCP does not store any data.
And who benefits most from MCP right now? Is it the enterprises, the end users, or the developers?
Because there are so much of open sources available for VS Code, things like that. It is a developer which has been widely used by developers today. Small customers, they started seeing the value and they're getting into it. Enterprises are yet to see the value add, but that is the future. They are always a kind of a come to party to the very later stage. Once everything is there and everything is cooked, security, all these things, then they'll get into. But they are going to get into very soon.
Developers at the foundational level.
That's the reason cloud desktop that we use, Cursor, Windsurf, all these, if you look at, these are the MCP clients which are much more popular. We talk Copilot, we talk about. These are used by the consumers today, not enterprise today, right? So the consumers who are the developer or marketer or sales guy who generate in day-to-day basis, they use these MCP and try to do that. But when it comes to enterprise, it is going to massive transformation going to happen.
So thank you so much for being here for this session. It is an insightful and great session we had, and I hope our viewers also got some idea about MCP. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sayani. It was a good topic. It's very close to my heart, and as we are doing a lot of work into this one, and excited to show some of our work in upcoming Dreamforce in October, and it's lovely to talk on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that's a wrap for today's episode. We are a proud sponsor of Dreamforce 2025, the event where the next generation of enterprise AI will be showcased. If you are attending, we would love to meet you, share ideas, exchange notes, and explore how Agentforce and MCP can power your next wave of AI innovation. See you in the next episode.